Today's Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee. Oh, there we go. All right. Today's Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee meeting is convened. We have a quorum. 6 of the 7 advisory committee members are present. So first up, we want to
Should we do roll real quick?
Oh, yeah, roll call. So we're going to start in reverse order. Elizabeth Harvey.
Present.
Tasia Gaspar.
Present.
Asali Ecclesiastes. Present. Monique Blossom.
Here.
Maxwell Chiaradullo.
Present.
Tyra Johnson. She's not here. Andronika Morris, present. We have a quorum. So we are starting today's meeting with CEA status update. We have an update from the city where the CEAs with the 2 administrators are now working their way through the Office of Community Development. In the past, we had been having conversations with the Department of, with Director Schwartz in Economic Development, but now it has moved to the Office of Community Development. Director Tyra Johnson is not here with us today, but she did send an update that we wanted to share with everybody, and that the CEA is with the Law Department for routing. FNO and NORA have reviewed and approved the draft language, so it's moving along. We also want to encourage folks to do a little bit of housekeeping. So we have this agenda set up where we can get comments at every point on every agenda item. As a reminder, we don't have staff. We do have folks who are volunteering and helping out. But if you want to comment on any item, please feel free to fill out a card and go to the corner, and someone will meet you at either corner to get that card. So does anyone have any comments that they want to make on the CEA status update or questions from the audience? That looks like a no. Okay. So next up, discussion. As you all know, the process for the advisory committee's recommendations is pretty straightforward. We have been meeting as a body for several months, engaging with community, getting comments, getting research in, getting data. We made our recommendations at the last meeting. We wanted to make sure that they went in ahead of this budget cycle beginning, and that's happened, and the council has accepted those recommendations. They've heard those recommendations. They also heard from you. Last Wednesday, in a historic move, we had a housing day during the budget process, where partners and agencies got to come and talk about the housing situation as it impacts the 2026 budget. It was truncated for a number of reasons, one of which that many of the council members had to go to Baton Rouge for a meeting with the governor's office to discuss the financial situations, and we're sad about that, but it certainly bodes well for how the trust fund is going to be managed moving forward. And we hope to see this happen regularly. We hope to see this happen consistently. After that hearing on last Wednesday, the council took up the motion to respond to the advisory committee's recommendations, and they have sent back to us their recommendations on how their response. They didn't just accept our recommendations. They have come back with some differences, so we're going to go over that first. And do we got it moving? We want to make sure everybody sees it. So, wait. There we go. There you go. So number one, we want to go over the required allocations and the different pieces around this. Actually, I thought we were doing this a little differently.
So this is just
We don't have the council's response up. Oh, okay, gotcha. So we'll just we'll just talk through that one. Give me a second. Apologies, y'all. Just pull up the ordinance. Actually, could you pull up the ordinance on that computer, actually, if we can get it up there so people can see it too? Because the council approved it last week, so it's on their website.
Daisy, it would be in the regular meeting.
Sounds right.
50-something, yeah.
53, 59.
Thirty-one? No, I think you were right, it's 50-something, because 34 is the other one. It's not necessarily 59. Oh, yeah. Yes, it's 59.
Oh, and it lists the things right there, but yeah.
There you go. All right.
If you scroll down a little bit, the amendment should be on the second, top of the
top
second
of the second page, yeah.
There they are.
And Daisy, you might want to zoom in a little bit. Thank you. There we go. All right. So what we heard from the council was amendments to, these are the 4 recommendations or the amendments that they made. Reducing the funding proposal for small multifamily construction from 6.3 million to 2.3 million. Increasing the funding proposal for owner-occupied roof rehabs, which is the fortified roof program, from 2 million to 4 million. And increasing the funding proposal for small rental rehab from 1.8 million to 3.8 million. So that would be more traditional not owner-occupied, but small mom-and-pop landlords getting assistance. And amending the scope to allow the fortified roof program to allow forgivable loans to go in along with the fortified roof piece to address any other significant issues inside of the property. So this is what the council came back with after they got the advisory committee's recommendations. So we want to make sure everybody sees that. And I want to see if there's any comments, yeah.
I think I don't know why, but I don't think this is actually the final motion. I know they introduced a substitute that day, and I don't think that made it on the agenda, because the one change is that the amendment to the owner-occupied roof rehab, it does say that they want to allow for developer or for the contractor to do additional work, but it's additional work that is related to putting a roof on up to 25K. We had initially said 20K. It amends it so it's up to 25 as long as the work is related to, necessary to put a fortified roof on. So I just wanted to put that on there because it's not on the screen.
It's not the dollar amount, but they do have the language about it becoming a forgivable loan for those pieces. Okay, so does anyone have any questions, comments that they want to make on this part? Because we did want to make sure that the public understood what the council's response was to our original recommendations. I see somebody raising their hand.
Just William Stout, Rebuilding Together. On the 4th bit, so is there not a section that was owner repairs that were not fortified roofs? Wasn't there some sort of a call out, there was going to be a fortified roof program, but then there was also like an OOR home repair program? Is that the same bucket or is that a different bucket? Am I misunderstanding? Because what's the purpose of adding repairs to the fortified roof program? Is it to meet the eligibility requirements of a fortified roof?
Correct.
Structural.
The structural issues that pop up, for example, if there's termite
Foundation.
damage. You know this very well.
Yes.
We know you know this very well. And could you explain that, William, to the audience about what's happening, what's necessary when a fortified roof goes in, and if you find other issues that make it impossible for you to put a fortified roof on that home, and you must address those in addition to putting the fortified roof in.
Right, so, to meet the fortified eligibility requirements, and IBHS is constantly kind of evolving the recommendations, but a home has to have 4 corners of a foundation that are non-dry stacked piers. So if it's a raised or elevated house, a slab house is fine as long as there's no structural cracks or issues. But a raised home, which is predominantly what we have, all 4 corners of that house have to be a raised pier with not dry stack foundations, which are less common in New Orleans, more common in rural parts of the state where you see kind of just cinder blocks on top of each other. You also need the framing on the deck system to be no more than 24 inches on center. And so in like the Treme, when you find really old houses, you'll find true 2x4s that are 26, 28, 30 inches on center. You can actually get a letter from an evaluator, an engineer, saying that you don't have to make those structural repairs. But generally speaking, the other big caveat is that a home has to have to be in generally good condition. So you can't put a fortified roof on a home that is in otherwise poor condition. And so it has to meet all of the fortified requirements and be considered good condition. And that's where things get a little bit trickier on a house that is in disrepair. No amount of money will, to the exterior building envelope could kind of meet those criteria. So generally speaking, a fortified roof is like 16.4, including some of those deck replacements, member issues, foundation issues. 25,000 is not typically enough to address a full foundation. So while you have that caveat of making it more likely that someone can get a fortified roof, it would still be very difficult for somebody to get in good condition if that otherwise not, or have a foundation issue.
And William, this is one of the issues that we've been seeing with the state-funded program, correct? That folks who have those other issues don't have the capital, and then they can't take advantage of the grant program, even if they have the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that would be more helpful than some of the issues addressed in number 4 is allowing the program to pay for homeowners insurance. I know that seems like a sort of end round, but to access the state's program, you have to meet homeowners insurance and flood insurance requirements to get a $10,000 grant. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we have as a nonprofit, is we have organizations that are willing to pay for everything but the homeowners insurance. And so a $2,000 policy on Iroquois will unlock a $10,000 grant from the state.
Thank you. Oh, any more questions? Wait.
No, can you fill out a card, William? We're just going to try and do this the right way. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Come on. And then we'll get cards over.
I'm Lou Ann White. Luvis Services, we develop tiny houses for people who are homeless. Just want to speak to the deep cut for the small developments.
Small multifamily construction subsidy?
I just think that, why go through the whole process of setting up the zoning to do this and then not putting the money in the pot seems kind of ludicrous to me. Just want to say that.
Thank you. Can you fill out a card?
Yes.
Luann, thank you. Right there. Any other comments on the council amendments? All right, thank you. We're going to move on. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, please. Any committee members? Thank you. Asali?
Yeah, so my comment is reflective of Luann's. Like, I have a deep concern around the depth of the cut, because it seems to me that we're taking from the most vulnerable in this situation. Like, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is more for renters,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So to take that much from renters, and don't get me wrong, I'm a homeowner myself since 2011, love being a homeowner. But I have been a renter for the greater portion of my life, and I support 30 low-income rentals in the city, and I think that homeowners already have way more protections than renters do. Homeowners already have way more money in pots than renters do. And not to say that homeowners don't need this. You're right, we know the need is deep, but this is a multi-generational problem with a multi-generational inequity. And I don't think that it is fair, because what we're really talking about is taking from the most vulnerable, and not even really to give to the homeowners, but to give to insurance. So we're talking about taking support from the poorest and most vulnerable people, and probably the blackest people. We want to be honest about it, and giving it to insurance companies, which if we need a fix around insurance, like that should be a legislative fix. It shouldn't be inside of this pot of money.
We would be putting a fortified roof on, which would actually take money away from the insurance companies, because the house would be stronger and people would be able to pay less. So that's what that, I understand what you're saying though, is that, because these are, and the small multifamily construction subsidy would go to the landlords, so that they could build, because these are new construction. Yes, it's building new homes for renters and building densely, right? Not just single family. This is a policy that has been worked on for quite some time, under the umbrella of the smart housing mix, and not just doing things for the large scale developments, but also looking for things at neighborhood scale. One of the things that we heard though was that this has been a part of the budget campaign we've been talking about, is our Office of Inclusionary Zoning is not adequately funded, and there was worry from the council and the administration about what this would do with. We talked about there being a need for compliance and that the administrators needed to handle that, and that there might need to be some revenue sharing with the Office of Inclusionary Zoning with the administrators to make this work. Those suggestions were not heeded. So, yeah.
What did we vote for?
So we voted for, the 6.3 million. Well, we're gonna talk about that today, because this is their response. We get to vote today on how we're going to respond to them.
And I want to add, Asali, that in the it's not up now. Can you put the Housing Trust Fund PowerPoint back up? We're not there yet, but it says rental supply expansion allocations, and in what we've just discussed, Ms. White, we voted on prior 50 to 100 units for the small family. What we're getting from what they've given us is 26 to 53. So that's what we're gonna come. We gotta come back to that when the slide comes up. But yeah, that's what we're talking about. For the audience as well, we about to see it up there too. And I just want to, we're all, yay, we want this to go well. It is going well, but we have to understand, like Ms. Morris is explaining, and I don't know your name in the green shirt, my apologies, but he mentioned that if we do William said, with the fortified roof, there's other things that go into this, so you can't just get the roof. So please keep in mind, everyone, while we're going through these conversations, that's a part of it, but we're in solidarity. We voted on something else. That is true. Thank you.
Next, yeah.
Asali, I just want to share your concern, echo it. I think you're absolutely right that this actually doesn't sort of match up with the data anymore in terms of like who's at the greatest need, and that is low-income renters. And so our initial proposal did try and target more resources there. And what came back from the council, I had concerns about that too, and we've tried to talk through as much of that as possible. Andronika's also right that.
What's their rationale?
So yeah, the rationale is, and I think the goal from all parties has been to try and make this trust fund successful, and part of that success is getting units built as soon as possible in the first year so that we can show proof of concept, so everyone has sort of trust and faith in this moving forward. And the concern from the council was that with small multifamily, that there is not yet the capacity in the permitting process to get $6 million worth of units up in the first year. And we talked with both the council and the people in the permits office who handle that, who are very supportive of small multifamily, really want it to move forward, are really just overwhelmed. And so we tried to negotiate a compromise that would add some money back in and also try and provide some supports for that office to make sure we can get as much done this first year as possible. And I noted in the revised report that this doesn't, like, we are shorting rentals this year, and we are going to come back and try and fix that.
But it doesn't say you're gonna fix it in here. So this is the thing, when you're gonna fix stuff, you have to put it in the writing, right?
It's in the writing.
So it says that they're gonna,
I mean,
proportionally, put back to renters,
Oh.
in the.
In future,
Is
well,
that future, wait, let me
and I-
finish, let me
okay.
finish. Is that future defined? And if trust is the thing that you're trying to prove, if trust is the thing, then we have to start with trusting the people's word and their vision. Because believe me,
That's what I was.
Y'all not hear-
People can't hear you. That's what I
oh,
wanted
okay,
to
I'm
say.
sorry. How do I make?
There, you're on.
Okay, I don't hold it, okay. So, thank you. If trust is the thing, and that's what we're trying to prove, one, we should trust that voters are smart enough to know what they were voting for and what the landscape is, number one. So we should go by what the people said and not change this without the people's input, number one. Number two, I don't think that this trust fund should be used to fix things that our legislators can fix themselves without this trust fund. So capacity to the permitting office is something that is under their control, their direction, supervision. Why are we taking from renters for
Right.
them to do that?
So that's, I mean, to your
disagree.
point, Asali, that, I mean, again, that's also part of like the larger budget conversation. Because one of the things that we envisioned with this advisory committee and with the process, that's why we were so excited about on the budget day, was that we wanted to be able to hear from all of those offices. That did not happen. We needed to hear from those offices what their limits and their constrictions were and what the council, who has the power of the purse are intending to do about that. We know about the financial crisis. What we have heard is, that everybody's going to be receiving cuts and, that some of these offices that don't have a lot to begin with aren't going to expect to receive additional investments. I think that also needs to be a part of our response to the council, because if we would recommend that, and there could be a compromise, what we've got is a draft of a compromise, that we don't put as much in, and we're going to talk through that, and we're going to hear from community about this. If, regardless, the hope from the council is what I heard articulated was, and from the permitting office, was that they want to work on this next year and get it moving. We need to see something about that, and we also need to see in next year's budget, the increase in capacity in those offices. And again, not coming from the trust fund, coming from, and again, we need that across the board. We need money for healthy homes. We need money, there are other things that complement what this trust fund is doing that we may not get money on. And we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to make sure that the community is aware of that, the public is aware of that, and that the council is aware of the fact that if they want to build trust, they got to earn it.
Right, and it starts with not betraying the poorest of
Right.
folks, right? I mean, and I don't wanna say the word betray, right, because that's a heavy word. What I mean is that
Prioritize.
when we are prioritizing, right, the most vulnerable have to be considered first and foremost, because they have been taken from the longest.
Yep.
And that's just period.
Any other comments from the committee members? Okay. Daisy, can you get us back onto the slide? So we are going to close out item number 2 unless there's any other comments from the public. So we've heard and discussed the council's response. We are now going to walk through what our response could be. And we want to go through these piece by piece. So first up, let's start with the first piece here. Just to remind everyone of how this should be following the ordinance that's in place. So there's also been some adjustments. The revenue has been adjusted down even further. Not overwhelmingly and significantly, about $100,000, $107,000 difference, which is something, but not mind-blowing. The trust fund total is estimated to be about $14.5 million. First off, the rainy day fund, so almost $750,000 would go to the rainy day fund. That's the emergency fund, so if something happens, we would have money on the side, and we want to make sure that that money can build up over time. The admin costs, 10%, $1.4 million would be split amongst the administrators, and then that leaves $12 million in program funds to be deployed. And what's required is 15% towards homeowners, 15% towards rental supplies expansion, and 15% sent to rental preservation. And then the rest is discretionary. You can move across any of those three buckets. Next slide. What we're looking at now is what's required, and this is, so it would shift to 50% being for homeowners, 27% going to expand rental supply, and 23% looking to preserve existing rental opportunities. Next slide. This is the breakdown for the homeowners piece, and wait, we want to stop there for a minute, because the way we have this agenda set up is we want to give you all the opportunity to talk through these. So what I'm going to do is go through it, and then we're going to go back, right? Just so everybody can see it and see what it is, so you can get your thoughts in order. So home ownership allocations, what we're talking about is, and to Tasia's point, how many units we are expected to produce with this investment, right? So we're talking about construction subsidies to help build first-time home ownership opportunities, owner-occupied roof rehab, 122 of those units, flexible fortified roof rehab, 40 of those coming online, and I didn't mention that we would be talking about creating 21 first-time home ownership opportunities. And I'm gonna go through these quickly. This is gonna be administered by Nora. We're gonna come back and go over these in detail and allow you guys to comment on them. Next slide, Daisy, thank you. Owner-occupied, yep. Also to be administered by Nora, we're breaking these down further. You can just go. Flexible fortified roof program, this is new, or at least something that we haven't talked about to this extent. And how this is going to work, it's available for, it's flexible. So someone who might be buying a home and they need to put a fortified roof on to make it, to make sure that they can preserve it and that they can get an affordable insurance policy. That's what we're talking about here. Also, it could be for someone who is living in their home already and need access to it. Rental supply expansion allocations, this is the small multifamily program going down from 6.3 to 3.3. We would, instead of 50 to 100, it'd be 28 to 53. This will be administered by Finance New Orleans. There's some changes in some of the program guidelines. And this is also part of the issue with that the administration is worried about, because there are some additional steps that need to be taken in order to make this work. And we're going to talk about that in a little detail when we get back to this specifically. Oh, yeah. Rental preservation allocations, $2.8 million. So that's increasing. And we would go from 37 to 125 to 57 to 191, depending on how much money is necessary for them. So this is administered by Nora. So this is for small mom and pop landlords. This would help people fortify their roofs, making the homes more energy efficient so that they could rent these at an affordable level. They will have to keep them affordable for a mixed timeline depending on how much subsidy that they get. Next slide. Yeah, that's the last one. So let's walk it back to the beginning, Daisy. So first up, I'm gonna give you a chance right now, Max. We want to talk about we want to talk about the rainy day and administrative allocations. And okay, so Yes, so any comments from the audience on the rainy day fund and the administrative allocations? And Asali, one thing that we were talking about was if there was a need for the offices inside of City Hall to get funding, it would come from the admin fund. Like if, in order to run that program, would there need to be some admin dollars shared, not program dollars?
Right.
But,
Well, and that's what I was presume it was for, and it seems like that should be the capacity that's needed.
but again, the budget crisis, the way that it's being managed is they're looking to make serious changes to City Hall. And I guess with the new administration coming in, they're waiting to hear on that and not wanting to make any big changes ahead of that.
I think that's awesome that they're looking forward to take the time to be patient and make sure that things flow well in the coming time discussing the budget next year. However, if I'm not mistaken, this was drafted and we spoke about it all summer, and for this whole year we've been doing meetings and getting the information and meeting with Finance New Orleans and Nora and Hanno, and I think that we had discussed with them January 1st, going online January 1st. So given the temperature of the city and the budget and the money, it's very understandable why these concessions are being made. However, that doesn't change who we're advocating for. That doesn't change the plight of the people. And the plight of the people is, well, we still want to go online on the 1st. And it's okay that, that's not happening, I suppose, for now in conversation, but that's what we're looking for. And to be transparent, if that's the goal, then we would want them to continue to be as forthcoming as they're saying they are now with what's needed. So we know, okay, well, if we look at the rainy day and the admin costs right now, it's good. It went down. That's what we're looking for, but we want it to go down and that money goes to more units. We want them to continue to make these appropriate concessions, but that we're prioritizing, as we said, and we're, like William said, being very mindful that this is for putting units on the ground. 4 to 5 units is great. We want to make sure they're long-term. We want to make sure that we have houses in 10 years. But we can't do that if there's no one here to be in the houses because everyone left.
Yep.
They can't afford it because they don't have the money. Or to the concessions that we're making, there's not a budget for it next year.
Right.
So I think it's really important that what I'm asking is, before then they get with us, and that these concessions and these dollars are made, because when we get to the next slide, I'll repeat this, we need more units. And that's why I'm here. And as someone who was homeless here in the city, I'm a resident voice, we're not even discussing homeless shelters. And I advocate that every time. So, okay, we're not talking about homeless shelters, so we need units. And I can see.
That's right. So one thing, point of order, I've just got word that the live stream is down. So, can somebody run upstairs to see if we can see what's going on? Thank you, Brandon. We're going to continue the meeting. Hopefully, the recording we'll make sure that the recording goes up online and that it's being recorded, but people are not able to pay attention to what's going on right now. Okay, so just wanted to let y'all know that. We're going to keep moving, though. Your stream.
I'm streaming if that helps. Just saying.
Send me your IG so I can send it to this person. Okay. Any other comments from the audience? I don't think we've actually heard any comments from the audience on the rainy day and admin costs. Nope. Everybody's good? Any other advisory committee members? Anybody else want to add anything? Nope. Okay. Daisy, thank you. All right, top line allocations. We are going to move to, we talked about rainy day. Let's talk about the homeownership money. All right, homeownership allocations. We've gone over this, talked about it. We'd like to invite any comments to come up. Anybody who has any comments to come up.
William Stout, rebuilding together. Okay, so the first box is just general health and safety repairs for homeowners, averaging up to $100,000. It says subsidy, so is it a grant or is it a forgivable loan? Do we know how the program design is yet?
Sorry, this is for
Is the homeownership construction subsidies? That was, you said to bring on new homeownership, right? Like first-time home buyers. So is it a grant or is it a?
That's the homeownership construction subsidies is going to function similarly to Nora's current OHIP program, which is,
Okay.
I believe, a forgivable loan.
Great. Okay, and then the difference between the owner-occupied rehab program and the flexible fortified fund is that the owner-occupied roof rehab program doesn't address any of the structural issues. Is that the
The
distinction?
owner-occupied roof rehab program goes up to $25K. So like you said, roughly $17K for a fortified roof. You're
Yeah.
going to have an additional $8K potentially for any small issues that might be necessary to put a fortified roof on. But generally speaking, that's for units that are in good shape and need a new fortified roof.
And then the flexible fund was the one that's the new carve out for addressing harder to get online units.
Well, so no, the subsidy is still the subsidy or loan amount is still the same. The difference is that the flexibility allows it to be used for someone who's a first-time home buyer who's purchasing a home that needs a new roof, or for someone who owns their home and needs a new roof.
Right.
Like the landlords and stuff.
No,
basically.
this would be for homeowners, so it would be
Okay.
for different kinds of, so someone who's buying their home for
Okay.
they're a first-time homeowner. So typically, the owner-occupied roof rehab program would function like an owner-occupied roof program,
Okay.
similar to the ones that the city administers, where they tend to target the specific populations, lower income folks.
Sure.
But this would be allowed for, it could go for that, but it also could be a program that pairs with a green mortgage program, for example, and allow them to also fix up their home, and as a way of facilitating the purchase.
Okay. That one's going to be really hard to deliver.
Yes. And again, administrators are going to have to figure this out.
Yeah. That one is going to be really, because I mean, think about it from a soft second perspective and all the logistics involved. If you're adding a roof to close, that's going to be incredibly complicated, and I'd bet the under on that units. Just so.
And the way the green mortgage program typically works is that they let them buy first, right? And then they come back and they talk about what can be done. Because you can make some concessions with the initial insurance policy to give them some breathing room, and then hopefully you get the fortified roof in,
Right,
and
get
then
the
they
discount,
can,
harvest.
and then they get
Yeah.
the discount afterwards, right?
Okay.
But yes, it does, to your point, it will require coordination and orchestration.
Yeah. So my only comment is that sometimes the homeowner also has a rental unit. A lot of our homes are doubles. So this program is a way of bringing online rental units or affordable rental units and bringing their insurance costs down, because the roof affects the whole building envelope. Just from an anecdotal perspective, we're seeing pretty significant savings from our homeowners. $800 on average is the savings amount, and the state is actually moving to make a mandatory 20% discount as part of the state's program. We'll see what that means.
I don't know if it's going to be 20%.
Well, that was what Tim said on Monday. And then just from a context perspective, the homeowners that we serve, their average AMI is 40%. So it's extremely low income, roughly $25,000 for the household's income. And that's just the data from this year for the fortified roofs that we delivered. So these programs are benefiting the extremely low income households.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Oh, and Will, we need you to fill in another card for the agenda item. Yes, sorry. You can fill in your card after or before.
Good afternoon, Nicole Barnes with Jericho Road Episcopal Housing Initiative. I guess my question is around the home ownership construction subsidies. Talking about the structure that things have, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how we're advising on that right now, but one of the things that I want to talk about is that the fact that the city of New Orleans hasn't had outside of Nora, the Nora OHIP program, they have not had a developer homeownership subsidy, NOFA, since 2016. So it's something that we've been really needing. The cost for construction is, I don't even know what the word is for it, absurd, astronomical, all of those things, particularly post-COVID, particularly what's happening with the tariffs. So it is costing us as developers easily around a total development cost of around $250,000. And I would say that's minimally to build a house that is fortified so that we can ensure that the first-time home buyers who are purchasing are getting a unit that they can insure and can afford. So we've talked about this before, about the need for the structure of the program to reflect that, to reflect the need of the developers to be able to build this quality home for our first-time home buyers. I guess my question is there still opportunity for us to shape that? I'm not sure what's happening with the structure in terms of advising this anymore.
Yeah, so, and that's a good question, because that's the question that we got. This is why we've been pushing folks so hard to come today or to send comments. Today is the last day for us to take any action. And that's why we wanted this structured this way, so people who were here, could provide as much comment as possible. If you are interested and you're listening online and you want to email us, the comments are up, that we can take those comments in and hear what people have to say. But unless you're here in person or you sent in comments, this is it for our opportunity that may have any impact on this.
So, and let me give you the math, because I want to be really clear about this. I always talk about this in ways that I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, because this is what I do every day. But, so we're talking about a $250,000 cost, minimally. Typically, right now, given where we are with interest rates and insurance, a person at 80% of AMI can typically qualify for a first mortgage of about $150,000. That leaves that $100,000 delta that needs to be filled. What I'm saying is that for that entire amount needs to stay in the construction of that property, in the development of that property. There's been, the way the OHIP program is currently structured, there's some return of that investment back to the redevelopment authority. I'm saying right now, we don't even have that. We don't have that latitude. And I just want to emphasize that, because anyone who is building new construction houses, who are building for affordable families to make sure that we can make it work from a financial standpoint, and who are also building resilient houses to make sure that it can work from a financial standpoint, that $100,000 really needs to stay in the deal. Because we don't, there's not even, there's no lagniappe, there's no extra, there's no cushion. I mean, this is what it's costing to make it work. Now, we have seen the positive yields from that. When we look at houses that we've built to the fortified standard now, we're seeing finally some movement. It's not uniform as it should be, because we don't have a mandate yet, William, but we're praying. But we see insurance costs that I haven't seen since pre-Katrina. So we know that it's necessary to make it work for our families to be able to get to closing and to be able to own a home. But we also need that gap filler, not, it needs to stay in the deal. That's all I can say from a math standpoint. And I would just really want to emphasize that. And part of what we've been doing the entire time that we've been working for the Housing Trust Fund is making sure that we create policies and programs that actually work for the people who are doing the work on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've got some more cards? Not for this? Okay. So what we're gonna do.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Maxwell, what would, just maybe a sentence or two for me, based on what we heard, what would that look like as a recommendation? Like, will we ask the council to be mindful? Will we ask them to keep that as a priority as well? Lightly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the recommendations on the homeownership construction program have stayed the same since our first vote in September. That program hasn't shifted with any of the amendments, but I think Nicole's comment and concerns are ones that we have tried to be mindful throughout, which is that like this doesn't work if it doesn't actually produce units, right? It's got to work for the developers so that it can then work for the end user, which is the home buyer in this case, right? And so I think we've put those recommendations into the report, and then this is going to be an ongoing process, right? So we're going to keep meeting next year, and that means that FNO and Nora and whatever developers they select will be coming before us in future meetings to explain themselves, and if there are log jams or places where things slow down or they're not working, they're going to have to come and talk to us and tell us why. And honestly, like we've left a little flexibility in here in order for those kind of adjustments to happen. Right? It doesn't say, I think the language doesn't say like you have to offer exactly this much subsidy, because if it turns out that it's not 100K, it needs to be 110, and we get one less unit, but we actually get units online, there's the ability to do that. And we just got to watch it and sort of continue forward, making sure that everyone's on the same page.
So also, what we're gonna also do is talk through this, and I think we're gonna wanna make some tweaks, just from what we're hearing, because the point of this conversation is that we are not simply coming here and telling you what we think. We wanted to hear from you all, the time constraints. We got a lot of information from you all. I think we did a really good job of incorporating it in our initial recommendation. And so this process, where we are right now, has to continue in that vein. And again, there are people texting and asking and saying, how did I get my comments in? Also, you're gonna need to show up at next week's council meeting. They should just accept what comes out of today, or, well, they're gonna have to choose between our first recommendations and this whatever comes out of today. So they still have a choice to make. And so you're gonna wanna make sure that your voices are heard, and we also wanna encourage you all to come up and speak, email, and let us know where you wanna see changes inside of this. Okay, we don't have any other comments. What about committee members on the homeownership? And my intention is to take this through in parts. I don't think we'll get to the end, I'm just gonna jump it out. I don't think we're ready to just adopt what the council sent us back. We're gonna need to talk about this and figure out what we wanna do, and we're gonna do that in front of everybody.
Just to be clear, what's on the agenda,
Is our
the report
response.
that's on the agenda, right, is not just what the council sent us.
It's a response.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
also, we're hearing other comments, and we wanna figure out what we can and cannot incorporate. Okay? You got, for this item? No? Which item, Sydney? Which number? I can't. Is this item? Yes, okay.
For the owner-occupied
Thank you.
section. I'm happy to answer further questions about Finance New Orleans.
And introduce yourself, please.
Yes, Sydney Shivers, representing Finance New Orleans. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions about the re-up and legacy loan programs as they're discussed. I did just want to add a couple of clarifications. First of all, to Will's point on the legacy loans, those buyers that are utilizing that loan are going to be purchasing a home with a first mortgage that can help them buy the home and also make improvements. There will be technical assistance and support, but both from Finance New Orleans and the lender that we're partnering with on this program, which is Eustis Mortgage. They've done several of these before. So we understand that Fortified is difficult to implement. We look forward to doing lots of information gathering on getting the sequencing right so we can best support the homeowners to utilize additional funds to ensure that their homes are fortified and resilient, as well as understanding those other wraparound improvements that need to be made so that the fortified roof can hold. The only other thing I'll add at this point is that just to note that both the re-up and the legacy loan programs can be utilized for homes with 1 to 4 units. So again, these can be used for owner-occupied owner-occupied homes with rentals, as well as in the case of the re-up program, just landlord owned properties, and so we would be dedicated to identifying landlords that already serve low and moderate income renters and have affordable rents to be eligible for this program. So we appreciate the opportunity to add rental into the mix of programs that can benefit, or types of properties that can benefit from the Fortified program.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Oh, and can we get your card? And, yeah, Nicole's too.
Don't have to do this very much anymore.
All right. Any other comments on on item 5?
Can I make a comment? I know I'm at the
Yeah,
mic.
well, you gotta fill out a card afterwards, so yeah.
Come up, or can I?
You do it right now.
Okay. I just wanted to add too, to everybody's point is, I think now that we are at a place where we're coming to the final steps of the funding allocations, for the next meeting, I would suggest to the council, to the advisory committee, that the main focus or a priority should be to then work with our administrators on success rates of the programs that they are currently running that make sense and that are feeding into these buckets, so that you can start that as a measuring point. What's been successful, how to incorporate that, and then to now the programming for the different buckets that you guys are responsible with overseeing and having those programs come online. Because the funding is one thing, but the actual implementation through the program, to you guys' point, to Andronica's point, that's a whole nother thing. So starting with the success rates, incorporating what's working in those outlines, in those criterias, that should be a guiding point in moving forward with implementing the programs from the Housing Trust Fund.
Agreed. Thank you, that makes sense.
I want to, number 5 is, can you go to top line allocations? So I was waiting till we got to the next slide, but I think it's important, and I'll just go ahead and say it now. I appreciate home ownership, and I look forward to buying my first home in New Orleans. I look forward to maybe even having a fortified roof. However,
You're gonna need one.
however, I do think that if we're being mindful, like you said, Daisy, about how we're maneuvering in the sequence, I just want to go on record, and maybe, Andronica, you are my Put Housing First lady advocate. So my question would be, like, in New Orleans, do we have more home ownership or renters? And if that's the conversation, then I think this data for top line allocation should be a little more reflective of the people who are coming up and talking every day and what our data actually shows. And I'm one person, but I know a lot more renters. I do know a lot of homeowners in the East.
Well,
And I do know a lot of what I've learned over the past couple of months and how important it is to have a fortified roof on my first home I buy. But I don't want to discredit the fact that as a younger person, or even if you're a young person with a home, for renters who are here, which means people who don't have that funding yet or they're not there yet, that's still a very large population of workers who are here in New Orleans. And that's, whether that's our Mardi Gras Indians, whether we're talking about getting preservation home ownerships later, that's all great. For the natives and this and that, that's culture bearers, that's great. But until we get there, I just want to continue to advocate a little bit more about renters, because I don't want them to leave. I don't want us not to have people here. Thank you.
Yeah, so the answer to that question, it's a complicated one. For decades, the answer was simple. This was a city of majority renters. For the first time in decades, we are now a city where homeowners have the slight majority. We are 50-50, basically.
And can you also, if you're gonna go more modern, you talk about how we have more tiny homes now. We had Airbnbs come in. We had,
I was gonna get there.
Okay,
I
okay,
said it.
that's fair,
I
that's
said it was
fair.
complicated. And I also want to make the frame is that when we talk about a healthy ecosystem, when we talk about a healthy real estate market, the idea that the majority, as we see across the country and in other parts and across the state, the majority being homeowners tends to lend to the notion of more stability, and that communities where there have been majority renters, there is more housing insecurity. That's certainly been the case for the city of New Orleans. The change and the shift to home ownership is not one to laud, because it's not come because we've spent a lot of time helping homeowners become first-time, helping renters become first-time homeowners, what has happened is thousands of renters have been pushed out. And thousands of homeowners have also been pushed out, but it's been disproportionately impacting renters. So, I was gonna get there to make that point. We are at 50-50 with a slight edge to homeowners. That's been going on for about the last 2 years. But it's because we're hemorrhaging renters. And that is also the loss of renters and the destabilization of homeowners has led to a loss of revenue. One of the things that doesn't get talked about in this fiscal crisis is the fact that beyond all of the other things, we brought in less tax revenue, less property taxes. This is an issue we've been seeing for years in our school system. There are less children in our schools. There are less people in our communities. And that has come at the cost of this city's renters. When you look at who's cost burden, who is housing insecure,
That's right.
renters are still disproportionately, about 63 to 65% of renters are cost burden. We have seen a dramatic increase in cost burden amongst homeowners. They are becoming unstable. About a third of homeowners are now cost burden. That's a dramatic change over the last few years. So we do see, and we know the issues that are plaguing both of them. It is insurance, and putting the fortified roofs in will actually help bring down costs. And so we do want to talk about, and there's a reason why the original allocation proposed, when you look at the original numbers, it actually does give the edge to renters, right? And again, the discretionary dollars you can put them however you want. But if we follow the original matrix, it would be more edging towards renters. So we can talk about that. That is a good point. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about any changes we want to make.
Thank you. And I genuinely appreciate you highlighting this, because if we understand that the city is going through a deficit in the budget, then so are we. So if your residents have $24,000 last year and now they're looking at about 15, and they're renters, then they're not even looking at homes to buy right now. And I'll just be brief and walk myself through this. If any given day, how we had it stipulated prior, and I advocate for how we had it before because it was a little more balanced in my opinion, versus now, I just imagine when I came home in 2019, I was at one point homeless, and then I've been a renter for the last 6 years, and I'm a student. So when I think about my person who works at Chick-fil-A, when I'm going to get breakfast, or the person who works at McDonald's, or the person I see when I go to the park walking down the street, I don't live in a neighborhood that has a lot of homeowners because I live in an apartment. However, if I go about 3-5 miles down the street, I do see that, and I understand they work at doctors' offices and they're lawyers, and I just want to continue, and you said it perfectly, there's this mixed ecosystem here, and I want to advocate that we continue to, I think like Daisy said, look at this sequence, and we advocate for it that way so people don't leave, because I'm still here too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to talk this through. Last call for item number 5. Okay, number 6. We're moving on to a comment to talk about the rental supply expansion programs. Thank you, Daisy. All right, I have 2 comments here that got put in advance. Alton Willis. And Mr. Alton, you put in 2 cards, one for 6 and 7, so you can just talk about 6 and you'll come back?
Yeah, correct. Uh-huh.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Hello, Advisory Committee. I'm Alton Willis of UDO Properties. I represent a small development firm since 2013 that focuses on the acquisition of blighted property here in New Orleans to renovate for low to moderate income rental housing. This company has assets of 13 units within 5 properties, and a majority of the tenants are clients of various housing agencies that I have garnered and maintained a relationship. Some of those Agencies includes the New Orleans Women's and Children's Shelter, Stark Corporation, Housing Authority of New Orleans, Operation Restoration, the New Orleans Family Justice Center, the VA, and of course, Unity Housing. Because of my growing experience and a positive favorability among our tenants and a rapport with the above agencies, there's a collective plea for our company to build more affordable rental housing. Having said that, 10 of the units are benefiting families who make below 70% or less of our metro area median income. I will embark in 2026, I will embark on a plan to meet those demands. I will embark on a plan to purchase another fourplex. We have 2 fourplexes, but I will purchase another fourplex, either rehab one or do a new build to commence a capital improvement plan. And developing another fourplex for affordable housing rentals, I will utilize the guidelines of the City of New Orleans Small Multifamily Development Program. And it quotes, just to show you that I will meet this need. In exchange, this is coming from their website, for the Small Multifamily Affordable Housing Program of the City of New Orleans. In exchange for being permitted to build up to 4 units without having to meet the minimum lot area or off-street parking requirements, one of the dwelling units, in my case, I will do up to 3, but one of the dwelling units must be set aside for tenants earning no more than 80% of the New Orleans metro area median income, with rents priced at 70% AMI for a period of 15 years. So as also a licensed real estate agent, that I represent a couple of other property owners who rent their units, they are interested now in the programs that I also speak about. I did tell them it's going to take some time, but be prepared. Get your paperwork together and things like that. So I am encouraging other small developers to take a look at this opportunity to meet the need that is in this city. Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Willis, question.
Yes.
You've navigated these programs before, right?
Yes, like within the span of 2 years. Like 2 years ago, I didn't know about it. Then now 2 years, and so yes, the business has benefited. It's actually forced me off my job as a middle school teacher, but I do see the demand and the need, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I sleep better at night because it may be a drop in the bucket, but I can see the momentum, and so yeah.
And so you, if there was more money available, would you feel?
I would take advantage of it.
Okay.
Yep. And it was a learning curve for the past 2 years, but now I'm starting to see some traction. There's some things I know what to do and know what I should not be doing. And so, but the benefit is I get to tell other developers who are a little bit leery and wary, hey, well, all this paperwork, I say, well, you know what? If you do the paperwork and you follow with fidelity, you actually can meet the need and you will do well at the same time. So, any more questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Any other comments on the rental supply expansion program? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to clarify some things. So the 6 million that's struck out there is what we initially proposed, right? We said we want, and that was all of the rental supply money that we had allocated first time around. We said we want to put the full 6 million towards this program. We think it's really important. We think rental is really important, right, for all the reasons that Tasia and Asali and other folks have talked about. And what we got back from the council member was that it was going to be, they were going to pull 4 million out. It was going to be struck down to 2.3. So what you see now is an additional 1 million added back in by us. And I just want to explain a little bit more here too. everyone everyone who asked to reduce that money down to 2 million are huge supporters of the small multifamily affordable program. They worked to make it possible. They worked to make the zoning change. In many cases, and some of them work every day to help developers move through that process. They want it to work desperately, as do I. So no one said we're cutting money from this because we don't like it or because we don't think renters need it. The reason that they cut the money from it was because they are worried that if we allocate more money to it and that those units don't get out the door because of issues at safety and permits or other issues that we're trying to take care of, that in future years, people will have less confidence in the program and less money, it will receive less money. That we want to show success first year. So I just want to be really clear that that is the thinking around this. There are no opponents of this program that I know of, right? Only proponents who want to see it work. And so that is where the cut comes from. And in negotiating that additional $1 million back into the program, we tried to work very closely with the folks in safety and permits who are going to be shepherding this through, and with the finance authority who is going to be administering the money to put as many supports in place to get as many units through as possible in this first year and to set us up for success in future years. So I just say all that because I put a lot of work into prioritizing this program. I put a lot of work in to try and get a little more money back in, but I am trying to do it with the long-term success of the program in mind. And so that's just where that's coming from. I know it's not satisfying. I know we need more money for this, and I know that this process is not satisfying, and we need more time to talk through this stuff. But on a tight timeline and with the constraints that we have, I just want to share that sort of like, that's where this is coming from on my end. So I appreciate y'all.
I'd like to respond to that. I appreciate that context, excuse me, very much, and I'm sure listeners do as well. What I would like to hear, well, one, a point of clarification, when we talk about the long-term success, I mean, this is perpetual, right? Like, it's not even up for debate that it's going to end unless the voters vote to end it, right? All right. What, can you talk me through the provision to put the money back?
Sure. But the provision, like,
You said in the,
Yeah.
in the ordinance, it is explicitly puts the money that they took out for rental back into it.
right. So our initial report, which we sent to the council, said 6 million. If the council were to have adopted that, that would have been the budget and it would be 6 million. But the council made this amendment, they pulled 4 million out and they sent that, it was an emotion, and then they sent it back to us. And then we get to make choices here. And so what we're proposing is to add the 3 million back in. And that's something that like I said, I worked really closely with Leslie Harris.
No, I mean, you said in the, because I talked about them taking the money out.
Right.
Without explicitly saying that percentage will go back.
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the subsequent year.
Yeah, let me, so sorry. So what's written into our report, what I wrote into our report, because like I said, this is really important to me, is,
But is it written into the ordinance?
well, there is no, so there's not, the report is sort of like the vehicle that this moves forward with. I believe it shows up on the council agenda as a motion, but that's essentially the legislation. And so written into our revised ordinance, we acknowledge that the 50-50 split between rental and homeownership opportunities is misaligned with the data, showing that 61% of severely cost-burdened households in New Orleans are renters, and there are twice as many renter households below the poverty line than homeowner households below the poverty line. We make this proposal to prioritize programs that will bring units online quickly, but commit to ensure that future allocations make up for this discrepancy with regard to rental housing. So it's saying we're committing that future allocations will change that.
For me, that's not enough. Like, that's nebulous, we're gonna try, that's good faith efforts that we see over and over again get clawed back, ignored. Like, so if I were to agree to a 1-year change, it would have to explicitly say that it is a one-year change, and in following years, we're gonna make up for that explicitly in this way, you know, for subsequent years, right?
Sure.
And that's
That language
not
should be
possible.
stronger.
But that's not possible. They
Well-
can't,
Well, I
we can't make budget commitments over.
Yeah,
years.
that's true. We can't make budget, but
think-
we can
And-
send stronger language and stronger recommendations.
And I think
we can-
another recommendation, and I thought about this when you mentioned it earlier, like in group, we all were talking, if I want 100, and I understand we can't get 100, because we're at 50, so we're compromising. What if, per se, you say 26 to 53, right? But we say 75. So if we don't get the 75 and you make us sit at 26.53, does that mean next year we can add another 50? Because I'm missing the 50. So basically where we are in this being specific in wording is that it never lacks. It never kind of disappears. So we understand we can't roll over based on how it works. Yeah, they can't
right.
say next year. But what we can ask, and we'll ask Maxwell, will be in his ear to help word this correctly, what does that look like in it rolling over is the wrong term, but for next year, can we add more to it next year without depleting or taking away from, if the sequence works and you were able to get 4 units, Mr. Alton, then I would add that to our 4 if we worked in partnership. So we're not losing 4, we've actually added 4, which maybe next year could be 8. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
So, yeah, I think, but there's 2 different things going on here. We have to make a decision about our recommendations for how this money is spent. We can also, after making that recommendation, and as a part of making that recommendation, talk about our hopes and our wishes, and, but those are they can complement.
Okay, so could it look like this? If we agree to do 26 to 53, no hassle, we're gonna go, next year, could we do an additional 25?
They're saying they can't commit to it.
Right, yeah, there's.
But would that not be in our wording that we are
doesn't-
proposing
that's
for
not-
next
you
year?
can't- nope.
And I don't mean that they're
I mean,
saying,
it's other than it just being written down, there's no,
but that's all I'm asking is that it's proposed, that we have it in writing. I'm not saying that they
and the
commit
next
and
advisory
agree.
committee can make a different decision.
Yeah.
And the council can also make a different decision.
And just that we had it in writing somewhere, maybe.
Oh, it's already in writing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already in writing,
There.
and so, again, it's also, I want to be really clear about making decisions. You can make a choice. You're making a choice. And that's the hard conversation here, is making a choice and standing on it and explaining it. The choice, the dollars get appropriated and allocated, and then, yeah, we get to come back next year and have the conversation with this community all over again. And in addition to what we did not do, what we're hoping to see happen, we get to live with the consequences of the choices that we made. So again, if there's a,
And some people bear those consequences more than others, usually the people who are not making the decisions.
I want to close what I was asking in my conversation by saying that I do look forward to more than 20 units, because we could all agree on that, right? And thank you, Mr. Alton, as well.
okay. All right, any other comments on item number 6? Oh, come on.
Okay, I have to do another card. But it's really a question for
Maxwell.
So your explanation about the cut was it's based on the ability for the staff to make sure the money is spent the way, so is there some sort of formula? I don't know, in terms of how they decided to cut like 3/4 of it? Is there somewhere that says, based on the staff that are available now, this is what can be done? Was there something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There wasn't a formula, but it was a conversation that happened in concert with the staff, like I said, who are responsible for shepherding these developments through approvals right now. And it's based on sort of their capacity and their estimates of what they think is possible and what can get done.
So there was no conversation about adding additional staff to get closer to the amount as opposed to cutting like 3/4 of the money?
Yeah, I mean, there was. The problem is that, there certainly was, and I can tell you, again, that I showed up at the city budget day and specifically said, we need more staff in safety and permits to make sure that these programs these types of developments can make it through.
And the response was?
Silence, because ultimately that's the council's decision. And we know what they're dealing with, or maybe some of us don't, but we know it's a budget crisis, and I don't know how they're making those decisions, but I am advocating for that. And so part of the way that
Number of people, yeah, a lot of
yeah,
people.
a lot of people are advocating. Thank you. Yes, a lot of people are advocating for that. And part of the way that we got the additional money added back in was that FNO, Finance New Orleans, who was administering the Housing Trust Fund money, committed that they would help provide some technical assistance to the developers to help them get through that process and assist the people at Safety and Permits who deal with this as much as possible. So we're sort of end-arounding as best we can with what we have control over, which is the Housing Trust Fund budget. We don't have control over Safety and Permits budget. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Can we get a card from you too? Another card from you, Luann? Thank you. And I also, the point is that we can still make a different decision. We can talk about pushing this a little bit more. We could also talk about the dollars going into traditional rental programs, because there's another bucket. And we can talk, we do have the power to make those decisions. If the discomfort is what seems to be an appropriation that's out of whack, because especially when we look at the numbers, fortified roofs, which are the biggest and best thing that we can do for homeowners who are struggling right now, particularly some of the changes that have been made to the fortified roof program and this appropriation that would also allow for some extra dollars to help with other issues. There's going to be a big bang for your buck there. There's going to be over 100 units coming. Can we go back to that, Daisy? Can we show the numbers? So we're talking about, the unit count. So we're talking about right now going up from 103 to 122. And again, part of that is what can we, more than that, I'm sorry, we're going from 103 to 162. And comparatively, on the other side, go to the rental pieces, Daisy. Wait, I want to see the unit count. So we're talking about 57 to 191, preservation, going up with that, and going down to 26 to 53. So if there is a desire to kind of rebalance it, we can think about it from those numbers. And again, so that doesn't, because the multifamily one is, there's a question about capacity, but there is no question about what we can do for renters. And we also can think about this, to your point, Tasia, the challenge is how stable can folks be becoming first-time homeowners? But the flexible dollars could also go into the traditional homeowner pot as well.
What if we can get at least 50? Like, the bottom end of the previous amount, but the top of the cut, right? If we could say,
The estimate is, the high end is 50.
Right.
53.
53, and 50 on the low end with the other money. What if we could get them to commit to 50? Like, what would that take?
So here's Sydney.
This is what I was going to speak to. I'm wearing my administrator cap, so I'm just going to keep coming up here with the technicalities to help inform this conversation, hopefully. So what I will share is that, these estimated units are an estimate, and I think if the committee is open to allowing the allocation of fund per unit to go up to 125,000 or up to 70,000, we we would be able to realize additional units like that lower end of the Spectrum 26 is the result of 3.4 million divided by 125 roughly, right? So this is important because not every development is going to cost the same to build. Not every development is going to need exactly $125,000 per rental unit or $70,000 per homeownership unit in order to succeed. I appreciate the due diligence that went into finding these numbers, but as an administrator, I think we would seek to use the dollars as efficiently as possible and not provide subsidy that perhaps isn't needed by looking at the real numbers of the projects. So I do just want to add that. And then there's another piece here, which is the mixed tenure option is a little bit more efficient because the homeownership units don't need as much subsidy, but there will be rentals in every mixed tenure unit. We just don't know exactly how many are going to be opting into that option. So it's a little bit of a guessing game, but we have been looking at the pipeline of projects that are shovel-ready for this, building on the work that Gano has started and contacting some of the developers we've been talking to, asking for these funds from Finance New Orleans. It's a very robust pipeline, and so far it does seem like most are interested in building purely rental, but there is a smattering of those who want to do the mixed tenure owner-occupied new builds as well. Keisha.
I would imagine that my question is still for you, if that's okay, Sydney. I would imagine that a lot of people want to maybe develop in New Orleans, that we just had a Super Bowl, that there's like a lot of things to highlight despite, the disparities that we're facing. And I just wanted to say thank you for wearing all the hats that you've worn today.
Thank you for offering space, and we really, truly are dedicated to helping to make this work with the developers that are shovel-ready and competitive, offering competitive applications. And like Maxwell said, there are lots of things we can do to ensure that in the future we do have a robust pipeline of projects that are ready, but also that we have all of our ducks in a row to make the process as streamlined and painless as possible, because development is hard. We need additional resources to make it a little bit smoother.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on item number 6? Nope. All right, we're moving on to item 7, public comment on rental preservation allocations. So as you guys see up here, what we're talking about is investments in small rentals to help preserve those units, doing fortified roofs. Can we go to the larger slide? Yeah, there you go. This is something that is really exciting because it has a big bang for its buck. It's something that we desperately need to particularly help a lot of mom and pop landlords, many of whom have properties that are not up to standards. We would have loved to have seen something like this roll out to complement the Healthy Homes program several years ago. We did not get to do that now. It's here now. The opportunity to do this now is here. And again, talking about the fortified roofs and the subsidy requirements to require affordability, right? So helping these mom and pop landlords bring their units back online. And again, we're not talking about significant rehab. We're talking about up to $50,000 a unit, which, again, just so everybody is clear, where we are with our construction costs right now, we're anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 with rental units per cost per unit. So 50 is a steal to bring a unit that is, and making it affordable. Making it affordable, guaranteeing that affordability and dealing with these issues. So we have a couple of comments. Sure. Yeah.
So I apologize, I made these slides and I messed this one up. If you go back one, Daisy. So you can see that the initial amount that we recommended was just the 1.8, and then both the council amendment and our recommendation, well, the council amendment was to add an additional 2 million that was taken away from the small multifamily into this. We instead are just adding an additional 1 million because some of that money went back to small multifamily and to other things. So you can see it went from 1.8 to 2.8. And then on the next slide, that should actually be 2.8. So I apologize, that's on me, but I just want to make sure that that part's clear.
All right, we have a card. Anybody who wants to come on up after Mr. Willis? Mr. Willis is up first, and anyone else who wants to come up, please start bringing your cards up.
Alton Willis of UDO Properties once again. Relative to the City of New Orleans small multifamily affordability guidelines, as I had mentioned in part 6, I will begin on next year a capital improvements campaign of the 4 of the 5 properties that we have. The main item is, I know one of the properties definitely needs roofing. So initially, I was going to install a roof by year end, but then when I started looking at fortified roofing, so I said, well, you know what, maybe as I grow, maybe it's time to do something different. And it just so happened I was in a meeting with an organization, Smart America, which promoted fortified roofing. So I said, you know what, let me stave off and installing a new roof this year, and let me see what's going on, because I'll use that as a pilot. If that's successful, if I could see that drop in insurance, then more than likely I'm going to just do all the other roofs as well. So I also and I realized the benefits of a fortified roof. Did not know it until this year. First and foremost, the insurance costs, but also more important to the tenants, it's improvement and enhanced protection of the particular property. I'm told that the number to return to their respective units after a storm is a matter of days, whether it depends on what our officials allow us to come back after a storm, but a matter of a day or two if the roof is fortified. So to me, that is a plus. That's a sell that I can do to the agencies that call me for units, because they know that they're getting a decent, safe, and fortified structure for their clients, my tenants. But as I said, the insurance discounts, the long-term savings plans. Yes, I was made aware that up front it could be costly, but then over time, I would benefit tremendously. So I also, last year I finished the renovation of a fourplex, and I noticed I made it a point to make sure it was energy efficient. And the tenants there, all the tenants are affordable housing rental tenants at that particular fourplex. And they have been singing the praises of an extremely low electricity bill to where they can easily manage. Things are airtight in that property. So I started asking in the other properties, what is the average monthly bill of your utilities? I noticed there is a huge disparity, so I'm assuming, what if I tighten those areas? What if I do a campaign, a weatherization campaign to address those issues? And once again, I'll be strengthening the rental housing stock for that those particular individuals. And as I said, I do represent, as a real estate agent, some property owners that are totally unaware of it. So I feel like I am educating them on these things, but I want to make sure that I educate them right. That's why I've decided to start attending various meetings like the one with Smart Home America. That's why I started attending even things like this. This is my first really time being active in this situation, but I'm starting to see the benefit. And at the end of the day, we are helping citizens who need rental housing. Thank you.
Wait, before you step out, I stepped out for a second, and I just want to I caught the end of what you said, and I know New Orleans City Hall has like the Office of Resilience and Sustainability, and then they work with energy, and they're doing the energy audits with the weatherization. And I think that's what I walked in on you discussing. I hadn't paired those two together, but like I table and advocate a bit for that, and that does make a difference because when they come in, they do the blowers and the caulking. We actually, Orleans has the grant right now going on till I don't know when, but that's a great piece to add. Thank you for uplifting that. Is that what you were talking about?
Oh, yeah, and I took an inventory of all the other 3 properties that they needed. The extra caulking makes a whole lot of difference.
Do you have like and I could be mistaken when I asked this because I know you said you've done this for about 2 years, so I could imagine that you know how, but is there like maybe like a document or something? So what I've seen is energy goes in and they do it. So if you are a homeowner, then that's your conversation. But as someone who's on the outside advocating for the program, when you do it as someone who's not with Entergy, do you have like a chart and these things that you're looking through? And I'm advocating because I'm going to come back later and talk about the dashboard. And these are forward-facing conversations where you can walk in and check off and say, okay, well, I'm here now. Sequence conversation, this is what has to happen next. Progress, right? Something like that?
Yeah, something. I get you. I can allude to that. In that, the fourplex that was rehabbed, I've used ductless mini splits for heating and cooling. The other units don't have that. Now, I'm interested in actually replacing the antiquated, another fourplex has window units at the bottom level. So because you can't run ducts in between, I'm gonna replace those with the mini splits. And then other units as well, I'm more than likely gonna do away with the standard conventional central air and heating because now I've had a year with those ductless mini splits, and I'm starting to see the improvement by what the tenants are telling me.
Okay.
So I can create a spreadsheet. It's an ongoing project where I'm assessing certain needs and things like that. So yeah, I can create something, and within a time of a month, I can have a document of all the properties and their needs relative to weatherization.
I think not only would that be good for data, that would be awesome, not to take too much of your time,
No
but
problem.
like
Yeah.
baselines and what's
Yeah.
happening right now, and then what works. What's working. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and just to let you know, I've been doing this since 2013. It just started picking up maybe about 2 years ago when I started realizing the programs available. One of the biggest things was the permitting situation, but now there's familiarity and there's a comfort level. I can recall speaking to Kelly Butler. There was some ignorance on my part, but she broke things down to me to where I can easily understand and it's more applicable.
Okay.
So, you know.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
And I look forward to seeing you.
All right.
Hello, my name's Irena Ellis, and I'm actually just standing here representing small landlords because I happen to be a small landlord. So I am elated about this program. It's very much needed for those mom and pop landlords out there. I appreciate that. I personally have units that are not in use, that are sitting on the ground, that need to be, back on the market so that people can rent them, because that's what we do. I come from a family who only rented to low income. My dad, who's 86, my mom, who's 80, who passed on their property, was like, as long as y'all promise me not to fix them all up or put them out there for anybody to buy it. So we're sitting on this property, and we do need the assistance because it is expensive with taxes and insurance and bringing them back in. And when you commit to, these properties are in Central City, so I don't have to say much more about that. When you commit to renting these properties back to people who really can't afford it, like my mom and dad charged $200 a month. I'm like, how do you make money? They didn't, and they still won't, and they don't want us to either. And we're okay with that, but they do need to come back on the market. My question is, how did you come up with 4 units or less for a small mom and pop? Like, is that 4 doors, or is that 4 actual buildings?
So yeah, it's talking about a fourplex, so it could be.
One fourplex?
No, I mean, it's talking about per site, per project. So
Yeah,
you,
oh, okay, so 4 different sites? No, one fourplex.
correct.
Okay, so I'm going to only ask that maybe we consider those landlords that own between maybe 4 and 16. Like, we inherited property, so if I'm a landlord and I own more than one fourplex, I own 2 fourplexes.
But you could come back to this program after you do your first project.
Oh, you can only do one?
Yes.
Okay,
But it's-
I thought it was you could only own one.
No.
Only one project at a time. Okay, great, that's good
Yes.
to hear.
No, yeah.
But
No,
yeah, I'm
it's
excited
not
about this
limiting,
program. It's
but
not limiting,
It's not limiting,
only 4 doors at a time.
correct, so that,
Okay.
number one, so we can spread it around.
Yes.
And 2, so that, we can also get those units going, because the larger the project,
Yes.
especially when there's scattered sites, that
Right.
adds to the development complexity. This lets you go knock out 4 at one location.
Gotcha.
And then move on to the next one, so you could come back.
Well, I appreciate the work you guys are doing. This is well needed, and hooray. Thank you. I'll give you my card.
All right, any other comments for, okay?
William Stout, Rebuilding Together. So the city also has a NOFA out for a comparable, but sounds like slightly different program, because the max number of units in that program is 4. I wanted to ask more of a clarifying question across all. Does the administrators for each program get the 10% based on when the money is spent? Or are they getting that money regardless of it going out the door?
So the CEA is going to determine how that's laying out. What my understanding is that the dollars should be available. What we'd hoped to see happen was the dollars would be available when the CEA is signed, and that all of the funds are deployed and conveyed to the administrators. We're going to see what that looks like. I think that's also part of the conversation that's happening around the appropriation process, is what dollars are going to be available to do that, and when would dollars be available in order to do that.
It's just sometimes program design, and that's like the next phase of this, right? Is that Nora and Finance New Orleans have to put out NOFAs, get responses, deliver the programs, then get the money out the door. And then most of the conversation around the multifamily small rental is the ability to get that money out. And so one other clarifying question is, if the money is allocated in the next calendar year and isn't spent, does it stay in that bucket? Does it stay with that administrator? Does it roll back? And then I think if the program administrators are only getting an administrative payment based on actual funds expended, they're much more likely to design programs that actually get the money out the door. Not to say that I don't trust Finance New Orleans or Miss Brenda to get the money out the door, but if we're saying, okay, you're getting 10% based on what goes out versus what comes in, the money's gonna go out in a year, which I think is ultimately what we want.
And I think that's reasonable to ask, given the temperature of the city right now, so.
The whole shift is to move money into programs that are less expensive, that get more bang for your buck, and the whole purpose that I think all of us want this to be successful, and one of the ways you tie success is the number of units actually impacted. And so if we're gonna say, okay, we're making the sacrifice to move money from this one program that is very complicated, and the report on all the things of the market economics of new construction is very difficult. So if we're gonna say, let's move money out of that and somewhere else, I mean, I think it's a perfect justification for it. I just wanna say, I think we could go a step further and say, let's make sure that the money is actually spent and allocated. And then we're a respondent for the city's NOFA around a small rental repair program. There's, from what I understand, 3 or 4 different organizations that have responded to it. But the caveat here is that whether it's fortified roofs or small rental repair programs, the Housing Trust Fund should not be the only funder on a project. It's beholden on the nonprofits or the developers to layer those funds. And so the state has a fortified roof program that pays the first $10,000. So we're saying that the fortified roof cost can go up to $25,000. I was looking at 10 this morning. The most expensive one was $25,000, right? And so if my average is 16.4, we should be able to get a tremendous number of units. And we also shouldn't be using this Housing Trust Fund dollars first, because it's theoretically the least restrictive. If we can layer CDBG, home funds, state fortified funds, FHLB, or other funding sources, we're going to get a shitload more units than what we're projecting.
So, Will, I agree with you in theory, but the point of this is to move this out the door as quickly as possible.
Sure.
Those other programs take time.
Sure.
And part of that's got to be part of the conversation. So if if it can be either or,
Right.
that's great. If it can be both and it could be fast, but that's not likely. Again, we've danced this dance before. You start putting in the public money, the traditional public money, the federal dollars that come with other requirements that the trust fund doesn't have, and that's one of the things we want to make sure of, that we saw this, the best example we have of it's with the COVID dollars, right? We got COVID dollars through Treasury across the country, and we saw those dollars getting choked off in municipalities and states that insisted on treating those Treasury dollars like HUD dollars. The municipalities
Sure.
that got it right, like this municipality, did not treat it like HUD dollars and pushed it out the door. And so we've got to do both, right? And again, I think that's to the long-term plans, and we want to see this kind of coordination, but we cannot just hold dollars to try to pair it with the state's funding, which has been notoriously slow.
Yeah, and I think it is definitely more complex when you're talking about new developments, but for like a repair program or a fortified roof program or things that are kind of one thing, it is not complicated, and we should be maximizing the city's dollars and our taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
I just want to make a clarifying comment about this. In our initial recommendation, we said 1.8 to this. This is the small, like 1.8 was the minimum amount we could put towards rental preservation. We said we were putting that minimal amount towards it because we knew about this other $5 million program that the city's Office of Community Development is running that William referenced. And we said, we're just going to dedicate this 1.8 to whoever gets selected, whatever contractors get selected to run this program, rather than running a duplicate program. That was the idea. That's what our recommendation was. We're now shifting an additional $1 million in it, so it's almost $3 million plus the $5 million from the city. That's $8 million. That's a lot of money to be putting in a program that is relatively new, run by the city. And so I think what we had said previously in our first report was, if for some reason the city's program doesn't materialize, then we would ask Nora to run its own similar program. That still stands, but we're not shifting additional money into it the way that we initially said that we would, because we've already got roughly $3 million coming from the trust fund. So Nora could use that $3 million to run its own similar program, and I think we're all going to be, I mentioned this previously, that the advisory committee's role is not just a one-time vote and then we're done, we'll see you next year, right? We're going to be working with the council to make sure that we continually follow up and make sure that all this money is working its way through the process in the right way, that the programs are functioning. And if, so the city's program issued its notice of funding availability. Folks have applied for it. They're supposed to issue their award announcements November 21st. That's very soon. And that money should be then going out the door quickly. If for some reason there are hiccups or that doesn't happen or things go wrong in the future, like I said, we're going to be meeting regularly and we can address that. And so I just want to sort of put that out there and make that part clear.
Okay. All right, any other comments? See if we got a card over there.
Okay, I have a comment about the fortified roofs. I'm Irena Ellis. I'm standing here now on behalf of People's Housing Plus. I actually run the fortified roof program for People's Housing Plus. I got so many phone calls yesterday from homeowners because the new lottery came out today for the state, right, the LDI. LDI gives you $10,000. I cannot put a roof on with $10,000. But I also cannot find any gap funding either until
That was Will's point.
federal home loan, yeah. So I'm saying that money has to come out, like we need it now. I can't wait. These people are gonna call me, they have 30 days to get the gap, but I'm not gonna have that money to help them. So then they lose out and then they have to start all over again. So those funds, we need them now to match it with Federal Home Loan Bank that comes out in January.
Nicole Barnes, Jericho Road Episcopal Housing Initiative. My point that I want to ask a question about is timing. This is exactly what we need to understand. And I want to be very clear when I'm asking this question, because I really do need clarifying. These are clarifying questions, trying to figure out what's going to happen with timing. Given all of the different messages that I've been hearing about how we're going to fund the Housing Trust Fund, there is going to be a difference in timing. If the Housing Trust Fund is going to get funded the way it's supposed to get funded with the 2% from the general fund, my question is, will funds be available to go out the door in January? That's a question. I'll wait for Max too. I'll start again. So talking about the timing, because what people don't seem to understand about development too is people who don't work in it every day is the timing is everything for making a project go to, everything has to fall in place. So I have a couple of clarifying questions because like the question Narena just asked, we need to know when funds are going to be available. And truly, we need to know what is actually going to be the mechanism for funding the Housing Trust Fund, because that's going to dictate the timing as well. So that's my question. If we are going to fund the Housing Trust Fund based upon the 2% of the general operating fund, does that mean the funds will be available in January?
In theory, yes. I mean, if it stays using general operating dollars, they will be available in January, yes.
And if we all agree and everything goes, that's what it was intended to be, and that's what I referenced earlier. That's what it says. But
I mean, we can only tell you sort of what's in the proposed budget right now. There's $14.5 million in the proposed budget right now from the general fund to go into the Housing Trust Fund.
That's the recommendation currently.
That's what's in the currently proposed budget, correct.
Okay. So, because that's going to make all the difference in the world in terms of being able to figure out projects that we have coming. The reason why I asked for the clarifying question, of course, because they've been talking about the bond initiative, and I know that just from my personal experience as a developer, if their bond fund, if we're waiting on bond dollars, that's not going to happen in January.
and this is why I've been advocating for it to be fourth front facing in the dashboards. Because if we talk about sequence, or like Alton said, he did this since 2013, but the last 2 years, what you're talking about is time. What we mentioned about getting the dollars out and to get the units up. So I'm with you, we're all with you as far as that goes. And Asali and I spoke a lot about this in other meetings, that it's important because people need to be able to see it. And then as a developer, where do you fit in for the 30 days part of the conversation, right?
But
that's why I'm advocating and letting you know about the dashboard. So in this, we will continue to be having those conversations, but that's like A gets to B, gets to C, gets to D. And what does that look like? This is the first time that the Housing Trust Fund is on, that we're having these conversations. So I'm asking that you have a little grace, but that you continue to have this conversation, and maybe even let us know how she gave, that's a 30 days for this part of it, right? I don't know that much about LGI or LDI, but I'm writing it down and I'm taking notes. So when we convene later and we have these conversations, I may say, Andronica, do you remember that developer said that there's only 30 days within this part? So what does that look like when they're meeting with council, or council brings this back up? Because to your point, we don't want to lose that 10. We don't want anyone to lose that 10. We need this right now, and that's why we have this. The same way they did the millage, the same way they did that, that's not this. And I'm not saying it to be crude about it. I'm just saying that we're all here right now for the first time, and that's why I said it's different to me. Because they've tried, we've seen different things, but I haven't heard these conversations yet. And a lot of what you're saying, I don't know if people have put it together all in one place, and that's why I'm advocating for the dashboard, so Nora can see it, not Nora Hano can see it, we can see it, and then say, okay, well, why can't we add some other units or add more time, because she's ready right now. But if we don't know that she has that, and those people are calling her, then it's a waste.
Well, let me clarify a little more. It's not just for the fortified roof program. For any development that you're doing, the way what it costs to build right now and what it costs particularly for nonprofit developers to develop, we have a capital stack that has to include several different components. So while we may be building a house and it's costing us $250,000, all of that funding isn't going to come from the Housing Trust Fund. Likely, we're going to have sometimes 5 different sources that we have to stack in order to make it work. But the problem is, and this is something that we see, in government all the time. For example, when you're looking at tax credits, when the LHC does not put out the tax credit, the qualified application for the tax credits timely, that throws off your entire development for everything that you were planning to do. So my question was really clear, and this is the only question I had about it was, we need to be able to know whether or not the Housing Trust Fund dollars are going to be available in January so that we can continue to plan and to move our projects along, because we've been planning for that all along. And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that that's the question I'm asking.
Right. And so the answer that was given was about what the draft budget says right now, is that the $14 million is coming from general operating funds. After this week's election, and then next Thursday, the council will take this back up again. They are going to make several decisions. They are going to make a decision between our previous recommendations and the recommendations that come out of today. And then they will get the opportunity at that point to, if, depending on how the vote goes, to attempt to change the funding source. That decision we won't know for sure, and frankly, we won't know until the budget is closed out. The deadline is December 1st, because the council can, one thing that was a surprise last year was that there was $15 million also of bond financing put in the Housing Trust Fund envelope. Most of the council were not aware of that. The public was not aware of that. We didn't know about it until we started hearing about the fiscal crisis. So that's why we're encouraging everybody to engage around the budget process, to pay attention. We are certainly paying attention, and we will be engaging around this. But there will not be, right now, it's saying it's coming from general operating. That can change, and it is subject to change until the budget is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, number 8, we are moving to number 8. So question, do we want to, I want to ask my fellow committee members, looking at, Daisy, can we go back to the top line?
Allocation.
Yes, thank you very much. So, asking the question, I don't think it is the question, but is everyone comfortable with these numbers as they are? Do we want to make any tweaks, shifts because again, that we get to the percentage. Asali?
I would say for me, I would feel more comfortable if we said 55% for rental. Like give us something, 55, 45.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I was, based on our past conversation about small multifamily, I have been trying to work up a sort of like a sentence to add in. I think in the state legislature they call this an amendment in concept. This isn't fully wordsmithed, right? But essentially to say that the committee wants to acknowledge that there was significant pushback from the public on the decrease in funding to small multifamily affordable, that we want to talk about what the data actually says and the importance of serving renters with the greatest needs, and that we're passing this with the understanding that the current committee membership will strongly advocate to restore small multifamily affordable funding to at least the full $6 million amount in future years. I think that's what we can actually commit to as a committee. And I wanted to try and put some sort of a strong statement in there. So I wanted to offer that up as a possible amendment for folks, if that's useful.
Well, we can do both. We can do that language and make a financial change.
Yeah, I think that, sorry, Moni. No,
But again, we're talking about going up 5%. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. Well,
I want to
again,
make sure that there's a commitment that safety and permits can handle even a 5% increase.
Well, and again, we got to the increase that we did, not because safety and permits, because of the finance authority, their commitment. Yeah, so again, so that's the issue is, are folks saying, so we're not gonna muddle this. Sally made a request to increase it so that there is an additional, we need to do the math, money going towards this. What is everyone else's vote? What is your decision on this? That's what we need to be doing. The language, everyone seemed okay with the language, and that's one thing, but what we have here is a desire to actually have this be, instead of 50-50, 55-45, and a recommendation to change those numbers.
That, for clarity, that would be about $600,000 we would have to pull from a different program.
From the homeownership program, because that's,
Right.
that's how you get to 45,
That's right, so you would either have to pull it from the,
fortified roof, or, yeah, fortified roof.
yeah, either the flexible fortified roof, the owner-occupied roof rehab. I don't think we want to touch the homeownership construction subsidies.
Nope. So we did the fortified roof program.
Yeah, $600,000, which, you know, could be, based on our estimates, another, oh God, I can't do this math on the fly, but maybe between 6 and 10 more units potentially. I mean,
More, 6 and 10 more roofs, and how many more?
6 or 10 more small multifamily units, maybe.
I'm kind
5
of
and
like,
10.
Got it.
I think if I had to answer, I'm not like so much million. I'm looking at the percentage. It's a little bit easier for me to do it that way. So I guess I would be asking that home ownership maybe decreased by 3 or 4%. I'm not necessarily like the 45, 50, like all of, I don't mind. I do think it's important we discuss where it's coming from, but I just want home ownership maybe percentage to drop a bit. I'm not necessarily personally saying 10% or 30%, which is by way of
we said
different.
5%.
And neither is Sally, Sally's
Okay.
saying 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think for me voting, that would be the max 5%. But yeah, 4, 3, just so that way, it's a little more units. And I guess I feel this way now after listening to like Alton and a few other people discuss how like, and this is something I was gonna ask, but it hadn't come up yet. We do have different total numbers, but we don't have like our total number that we're looking for next year. And I think that would help me see it, like,
I mean, our total.
so I think on there we had like 59 to 91, and I just hadn't added them all up, like the max of each number. And I think that would be helpful for me visually to see what this looks like with the total, and then to say if we did increase 5% or decrease 5%, how many less units that would look like on the fortified side.
It would be 24.
It would be 24, okay.
But remember, we've taken
And we would be adding,
11% from rental.
and we would,
This is the,
we'd be
but
adding.
is this is just home ownership though. This isn't home ownership and then rentals like how we're looking at the 50 and the 27 and the 23 or something.
I want to add a little, if we can go back to top line allocations too, I just want to also be clear that this isn't perfect math, because under the homeownership line, that 50%, it also includes the new FNO program, which is a roof rehab program, but it's a roof rehab program that can be taken advantage of by small landlords or owner-occupied doubles, which would create affordable rental units as well. So there,
Could.
yes, yeah. It's not mandated to,
Not
but it could,
does,
yeah.
right.
But it's not, so that 50% is a little fuzzy,
I
that's
got
all.
you. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for saying that. And just to clarify, so I don't leave you guys with a question mark, I was pretty much saying that, let's say, and thank you, Daisy, for going back to the other numbers. In this very skewed view I have, I'll say that I'm looking at what we're doing, and this is my analysis. Let's say we said dashboard conversations, we can get 500, 300 on next year. total rentals with the fortified roofs units.
I know we're nowhere near those numbers.
Okay, well, let's do 100. I'm just looking for a number with a 0. We could do 10. I really don't care. We could do 10. I was just advocating that when I say I'm going to approve and say my yes, that of those, now that I found this out, some of those 10 have fortified landlords that may have 4 doors. So 4 doors is really 14 at this point.
No,
right?
it's 4. Like it's 4.
So
4 units.
So, and I think that's where my maybe question mark is coming. So when we say, okay, we're gonna allocate for home ownership, and then we're gonna do a 4-plex, and so when he does his one, that's a 4-plex, these are my 4.
We're counting the 4
We're counting the 4.
versus the one single-family home.
And because I'm looking at this data and I'm seeing numbers and not units for this part,
That's what we were just talking about. So what the swap out would be 24 less fortified roofs and approximately 6 to 12 potential
additional,
new rental units.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have more, we're gonna get more home ownership units out of the current allocation because the fortified roofs are cheaper.
Okay.
And so we're already going to get more home ownership units.
Okay.
And the rental units, which are gonna vary, the range is pretty wide, we are trying to, that's the issue here is that it's gonna try to balance it out. Initially, where we were just going a third home ownership, we were gonna get more rental units, but now we're going half and half, we're gonna get more home ownership units.
And I think for me going into this, I just want more units. So if we go more home ownership or more rental, I do get why it's splitting and why it's a bit difficult for me to figure out what I want, because I just want a total more. So if we were looking at 10, and I'm advocating for 20, and how can we do that? But given this conversation, it's like, well, we have 4, and then we have 6, or we could have 5 and 5, or something
Yeah, it's
like
not,
that.
yeah, there will be a
Okay.
change.
Okay.
So the question on the table is, the request was that we would shift $600,000 from the fortified roof program to the small multifamily program. What I think we probably just need to do a vote. Straight up
I'm
or
going to
down.
say one thing real quick first, which is just that what I said before, all the folks who have been involved in this are folks who support this program, who want it to work, and the 1 million that we added back in was negotiated in concert with the folks who are actually going to have to make this work. And so I can't in good conscience feel comfortable voting to increase that after having that conversation without having to redo that whole thing. So I'm just going to say that out loud.
So you're a no?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Can I go back? Let me respond. If we're gonna say that, I can't in good conscience, vote against the interests of the most vulnerable people because they weren't a part of that conversation that you had with those more privileged people. So who is this for? Right? Like, they didn't even get the chance to have their voices heard in the conversation that you were able to have with decision makers and privileged people. So that is who our allegiance and loyalty and best and highest effort should be to.
And I agree. I think, right, I agree that we need more, the focus should be on the rental units. And I think, Daisy, at some point, you told us how many units were not online at some point, right? Like, we've got so many thousands that are just sitting there unused.
Yep.
So the only reason I was feeling more comfortable with right, if safety and permits could use all of the money and we could actually get it out, that's best case. If they're saying they can't do that, that really does.
and they were saying that about 6 million.
About 6 million, right. If they can't do it with the 6 million, it gives me very much pause. Looking though under the homeownership programs, and those couple of programs are allowing for more tenant units to come online, even though it is under homeownership. There's a good chance, and I'm hearing from a lot of the small developers that that can be used to get some of those units back online, right?
Well, no, it's because you have to be using it, that program would be for a developer building an owner-occupied unit and selling it. to someone who could then buy it and rent out the other side. That's, the homeownership units are, where they increase rental opportunity, it's connected to someone who is going to be buying it.
And that's an if.
Yeah, and that's an if. That's an if. So someone has to decide, they could also do a double that sells both sides. And so that's the issue. It's not, the primary purpose is going to someone who will own the property, and they may provide an additional housing opportunity.
And then the Legacy Up program, that wouldn't be for possibly using for, that was the one before the duplexes and the.
People who are existing homeowners who need to rehab their properties, yeah.
Right, but that's under the home ownership.
Flexible, right? Or no?
I thought that was flexible.
I don't think so.
For the slide that had the, oh, that's it.
Here we are.
It's flexible in that it doesn't have to be owner occupied or,
The flexible is for, it can be used for first-time home buyers, it can be used for owner occupants who have a rental unit, or it can be used for small landlords who have all rental units. It's flexible for all three.
Yeah, so no.
So, but it is flexible for all three. It could be used.
It could be,
Yeah.
but again, they want to talk about it with people who are going to be buying a home that need to put a fortified roof on later. That's one of the primary ways that flexible would be used.
I'm available for questions about all the programs.
Yeah, Sydney,
Yeah, there you go, Sydney. Come on.
I have a question. Like, I don't know that safety and permits can speak to this, but our concern, or my concern around if we increase this amount going to Finance New Orleans from 3.3 to 3.9, is that money that can get out the door for the small multifamily construction quickly within the next year? To prove that the Housing Trust Fund and the way that we're making these, to prove proof of concept.
I think from a pipeline perspective, we can make a reasonably well-educated guess that the demand for these resources is there. I can't speak on the volume of permits that safety and permits is going to be able to process in the timeline that I think we all hope these funds will bring those properties to fruition. But if we're talking about $600,000, that's going to be 3 additional properties at most. If it would be okay, also while I'm up here, I can provide a little bit more context on these 2 programs with Finance New Orleans. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay, so the legacy loan, I'm gonna grab my notes. The legacy loan is available to people who are purchasing a property that are low and moderate income. It's one mortgage that can be used to purchase the property and renovate. So when they close, they're closing on the loan both to renovate and also acquire the property. If we had these funds available, we would be able to say when those property owners make those improvements, they would have an incentive, an additional incentive to include a fortified roof as part of that renovation process. And again, that loan can be used to purchase a single-family home or a small multifamily, up to 4 units. The REUP program is for currently existing properties that are either homeowner-occupied rentals, or purely rental. So those funds can be used to put a fortified roof on, to finance, to make a loan more affordable for a landlord that is going to continue to hold their rents at an affordable level and avoid, passing on the additional expenses from insurance to their tenants. That is the theory of change that we're working with here, and would really like to be able to pilot with these funds. It can also go towards a homeowner who's chosen to take out a loan to make these upgrades and needs additional assistance, sort of like how the soft seconds work for homeownership assistance with the city and Nora and Finance New Orleans currently. These funds could blend in with that loan that they're pursuing to make the overall payment less and the overall loan more affordable. So hopefully that's clarifying on those programs. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. So, with that said, we're gonna take a vote on this item. So I think we need to do a voice vote. We're not gonna throw up our cards or anything like that. So the recommendation is that we would move $600,000 from the fortified roof programs to the small multifamily affordable construction subsidy program. And let's go ahead.
From which fortified roof programs?
The one that can afford it, because the one that only got $1 million and it can't afford it. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and start down here with Elizabeth.
No, I'm sorry, if I can get a little bit more clarity, which program that's coming from?
So come on, there you go. Owner occupied roof rehab, which has $3 million in it.
So we were taking 600,000 from,
From that program, yes. If folks want a moment.
I feel
A moment, yeah, a moment.
yeah, just-
Any other questions? That's a good point, Elizabeth. Asking clarifying questions, everybody taking a breath.
yeah.
And a quick calculation.
Yeah.
We just don't have any guarantee that we will be able to administer these, right? Like that's.
Well, there's 1.4 million in there for administration, but there's also no guarantee that homeowners are gonna pass these, savings down to renters. Like, that's a trickle-down theory that we're relying on, right?
What I think she's talking about because we're gonna make sure that the programs are going to, for the rental programs.
Safety and permits can
Yeah.
make this happen, right? Like, can make the multifamily happen.
Again, we're talking about 3 extra projects. That's what this does. It could lead up to 12 units. It's 3 extra projects in the course of a year, on top of the ones that they're already doing. And again, this is a dramatic decrease. We went from 6 million to 3 million. We're saying maybe 3.6 million.
And from a numbers perspective too, because I think that's where you're trying to calculate
Yeah.
it, is that will take you from 3,054,000 to 2,454,000, which would then give you 98 units versus 122.
Okay.
So you go from 3 million to 2.4 million, from 122 units estimate to 98 units estimated.
And that doesn't include the 40 potential units for the flexible
That's right.
program.
Right.
Which didn't have anything, and we took it from, the rental.
Right. Yeah, my hesitation is just on the practical, like, if we can make it happen, so.
I mean, it's 3.
And it's 3,
It
and
would be
that.
3 projects.
To me, that sounds doable, but also I don't know the day-to-day, so like, I guess the
Sydney-
compromise was
Sydney-
based
yeah,
on.
The compromise was based on the Finance Authority stepping up as the administrator and providing some of the technical assistance to allow it to be $3 million.
Right.
And so we're talking about $3.6 million, and the Finance Authority is saying, they're not saying no, but they're.
Y'all are saying, yes, maybe. I mean, yes, if, then my answer is yes for those 3, if that seems practical.
Tasia?
I want to say no, and I don't know if I need to like elaborate or not because I feel like we're just going down the list. I don't want to sound disappointing because I want to say yes, but I'm just gonna have to say no.
I vote yes.
No.
No.
Resounding yes.
So we have a tie. We have a tie. This is why we have a 7-person body, but we are 1 short today, so we have a tie. So that means that we are not going to make the change. Well, we do have to go back and vote on the overall piece.
Which overall piece, so what
The
we,
overall, so now we're gonna go back and vote and say that we're not gonna make the change. We're going to accept what we presented today and advance that.
then yes.
Does anyone want to vote on that proposed, like, amended language that I put forward? Does
I
that
think
not
we
matter?
accepted all of that.
Yeah,
Everybody's
I
fine with it.
accept
There was no
your
Okay,
objection.
everyone in favor? Okay, great,
Yeah.
just making sure.
Yeah, there's no objection.
Okay.
So if we're not making the change, then my vote is yes to move forward with what we had proposed. Is that my understanding of what we're
Yes,
voting on?
that's right, that's right, that's right.
Well, not what we propose.
What's-
We're
what-
moving
what-
forward with
what we
what the
brought- what we brought,
council.
yeah.
This is our,
Well, no, I mean,
this is our counter proposal.
Our
well,
counter
and I think the point is that the counter proposal needed to be discussed publicly, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
emails being sent around based on conversations, Max, you had with folks, that was shared with people, and we needed to discuss it, and we needed to discuss it publicly. So now we are coming to the place where we're talking about it being our recommendations and our accepting it, because there was an opportunity to change it, and we declined to take it.
Then yes, I agree we should move forward with our counter proposal.
Okay?
Yes, okay, let me make sure. Am I agreeing with what we said Maxwell was talking about, or what are we voting on again? I'm sorry. My apologies.
We're voting on the current version, which go back, Daisy. There you go. So with 50% going to homeownership and 50% going to renter. With these numbers. That's what we're voting on now.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Keep doing that, but no.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. And with that, we have our report going back. The council.
Oh, okay, wait, no, I fudged it because I'm in, solidarity with Sally. I think,
Well, wait. Deja.
with the 50%, no, because I said 40, and if I say yes, then my 50-50 is incorrect.
Well,
That's
but you
not.
voted against the chance to make it 55, 45. That's what you voted against when you said no. When you said no.
We just voted against what we were proposing that was given to us, right?
Because we couldn't change it. We couldn't agree how we wanted to change it.
Which means that we keep what we have now,
Correct.
Yes.
but I can be indifferent about everything, can I?
Okay.
I want what's best
So-
for everybody, but thank you for clarifying for me. I apologize for you guys' time.
So do you want to change your earlier vote?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Y'all have to keep voting, or that was it.
No, that's it. That's it.
Thank
Okay.
y'all for bearing with us.
No, everybody needs to see that. The participation matters. There's a reason we've been asking you all to come to these meetings. There's a reason for your participation, your emails, the comments. We appreciate it. We got a good little stack today. So thank you all very much. With that, this meeting is adjourned.